Good morning, Year 6, and it is Wednesday. It is the 14th of October, and it's time for our next reading session. So, to start off our session, I want you to start how we start all of our reading sessions, which is to do your retrieve, your infer, and your predict. This is today's picture, so have a little look at it. And on your sheet or on a piece of paper or in a Word document, can you first retrieve some information? Say what you can see. Then I'd like you to infer something. So based on what you can see, it might be one thing, it might be a couple of different things. Use that evidence to create an inference about what you think is happening. And then finally, write a prediction. If this was a story, then what would happen next? Start to look at key details within the picture. Yes, there are some things that stand out quite clearly, but if you look in the centre, at the boy in the middle, you can see that he's slightly different to everyone else. What's he doing? Who's that person on the far right? Really pick out some key details. Once you've done that, then you can carry on with the video. So this is our book today, After the War, From Auschwitz till Ambleside by Tom Palmer. Let's have a little look at the blurb. It says, Tom Palmer's riveting After the War was sparked by the true story of Jewish, Polish, Czech and German children who were sent to safety in the Lake District after surviving the horrors of Nazism. It addresses big questions. How does hope, humanity and friendship survive unimaginable horrors? How do we begin again? A sense of this being a profoundly important experience is clear from the outset, as revealed when young Yossi first glimpses England. But despite the peace, Yossi feels unsettled. The brick buildings remind him of concentration camps, and he's haunted by terrible memories, disturbed by nightmares, and longs for news of his family. Will his father ever be found and come for him? So that's our book today. So here are some keywords that you're going to need to know before you access this text. On the right hand side, I've given you some key names, and these names are really important today because a lot of the questions are character based questions, so you need to know who is who. So our names are Yossi, Mordecai, Leo and Talia. Those are some key names for today. And on the left, I've written some key pieces of vocabulary that you need to know in order to be able to access this text. We've got turbulence, we've got scrambling, we've got admired, we've got hurtled, we've got spool, and we've got fuselage. What you need to do is have a research of each of these words and write down their definitions. You can find them in a dictionary or maybe online. It's important that you know what these words are before you start reading the text. Once you've got the definition of all 6 of those words, pause the video here and then you can read your text, After the War by Tom Palmer. Now that you've read your text, it's time to look at some guided questions together. So number 1 says, what does the wall of white refer to? So if you have a little look back at the first page of our text, you'll find this quote. See if you can find the quote first before carrying on. When we find the quote and we read it in context, I think it's quite easy for us to see what the wall of white is referring to, because it says he looks out of the plane window and sees a wall of white and a wobbling wing of the plane. So we know that the wall of white are the clouds that the plane is flying through. So that's a question that's easily solved by reading the quote in context. For number 2, it says give 2 pieces of evidence which suggest that the plane journey was rough. And this is 2 marks. We need to make sure we're giving 2 pieces. Well, one piece of evidence, again from this first page, that might suggest that the plane journey was rough is the fact that it says the passengers were thrown around by the turbulence. Another piece of evidence might be that someone was being sick or that there were children crying. But all of those pieces of evidence suggest that the plane journey was rough. And then number 3 says, what is unusual about the Sterling bomber compared to modern aircrafts? Now this one's a really tricky one. We've got to kind of read about the Sterling bomber, and we get most of the information in the first 2 pages. And the thing that stands out to me that's unusual at the Sterling bomber compared to modern aircrafts is that all the passengers are sitting on the floor. They're sitting on blankets. There are no seats, and Yossi in this extract is crawling around on the floor. So for this one, because it's only 1 mark and I only need to write one thing, I would say it is unusual that the Sterling bombers have no seats and the passengers are sat on blankets. Can you have a go now at completing all the rest of the independent questions? Remember, when you submit this work, I'd want to see your retrieve, your infer, and your predict. I would like to see your vocabulary list, and I'd also like to see your guided and your independent questions.